So apparently this morning and yesterday things are starting to happen very, very quickly in the Middle East. And as I have told you over and over and over again, that the war that starts it all, the final world war, is going to, the match that lights the fire is going to be in the Middle East. How do I know this? Well, just as I have showed over and over again in Yoel 3. The words of Jehovah himself said it. He said it himself. In the day and time when the captivity of Yehuda and Jerusalem return. I don't know if you can see this or not. When they return. Alright. He will gather the Gentiles and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, which means Jehovah judges. Does not mean the Lord judges. And will judge them there for my people, for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the Gentiles, and divided my land, parted my land. They gave Gilead to Jordan. They gave half of Jerusalem to the Jordanians, the Moabites. They gave Judea and Samaria to the Moabites and the Edomites. That's how they parted his land. And they cast lots for my people. They gave a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Tyre doesn't say, yes, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre? It just says Tyre and Zidon. And the coast of Pelasheth. What is Pelasheth? A territory on the South Mediterranean coast of Israel. Get out your map and find it. You will see it. NASB translation, Philistia. The Philistines. They call themselves now Palestinians. Let me pull this down a little bit here before I... There we go. See? They say Palestine. They will try to it says make safe with accusative. Oh, they're going to try to take back that land. You see, by war. Okay, if you do this, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head, because you took my silver and my gold, and carried away into your temples my beautiful, pleasant things. The children of Yehuda, you know, the ones that Christians hate so much, and I'm going to do something a little different today, because one of my favorite websites has disappeared. When I say favorite website, I mean to get the news. It's unfortunate what I have to do today, but I think time is of the essence, so I have to do it. The children of Yehuda and the children of Jerusalem, you sold to the Greeks, you sold to the Hellenes, you sold to Western civilization, so that you might remove them far from their border. I'm going to raise myself, I'm going to raise Yehuda out of their place where you have sold them, and I will return your recompense upon your own head. He's going to pull an Uno reverse card upon them. You see, when in 1948, or just before 1948, when the enemies of the newly returned Jews to the Holy Land, the people round about the Jews made war against them. And the Jews were severely outnumbered, but the people, the Jews, defeated their enemies and declared themselves a state. Then there was the 6-Day War. Then there was the Yom Kippur War. In each and every case, Israel defeated their enemies. So the edict coming from on high now is that Israel will defeat their enemies, no matter how difficult, no matter the odds. This chapter here is the last days. He says he's going to sell your sons, that is, the Palestinians, and, as they call themselves, and the name is a curse as far as I'm concerned, the Gazans, and he's going to sell the people of South Lebanon, Tyre and Zidon into the hands of the children of Yehuda, and they shall sell them to the, or deport them to the Sabians. And as I have pointed out in several videos ago, that Israel is already working out a deal with the Democratic Republic of Congo to voluntarily send them there. But things could change very quickly. To a people afar off, this is the Uno reverse card that Jehovah is going to, not the Lord, but Jehovah. See, his name is Jehovah, not the Lord. And his name is not God, it is Jehovah. That he's going to, the Uno reverse card that he's going to pull on them. And that is going to trigger a greater war. So what we are witnessing right now appears to be, notice I carefully qualified my words, appears to be the beginning of what's happening here. So he says this is going to occur, for Jehovah has spoken it. His words shall stand, and there's nothing that Russia, Egypt, yes, I said Egypt, Saudi Arabia, or Syria, or Joe Biden can do about it. Yes, I said him too. No matter how hard these people are going to try to reverse this, it cannot be reversed. His statement shall stand. Proclaim you this among the Gentiles. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men, and let all the men of war draw near, let them come. Beat your plow swords into shares and your pruning hooks into spears, and let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves, all you heathen, all you Gentiles, and gather yourselves round about there. And then cause your champion to Nacheth descend. Descend from where? Cause your champion to descend, Jehovah. Does anyone have any ideas what this is? It is the Moshiach. He will descend in the middle of all of this. Assemble yourselves, come down, all you Gentiles, and gather yourself round about, and your champion come down, Jehovah. Let the Gentiles be awakened and come to the valley of judgment, for there will I sit and judge all the Gentiles round about. Put you in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Now, we can go and look up that very passage and see where else it says that. Let's see. So I'll thrust this sickle. Hold on. I don't even know how to spell sickle. That's how ignorant I am. Hold on. S-I-C-K-L-E. Oh. Let's see what comes up. Oh, yes. Looky here. Revelation 14:16. So you say the words of the prophets don't matter? You Christians? Fourteen, 16. And look, I looked and beheld a white cloud, and upon the cloud is one that sat like the Son of Man, having his head on his head a golden crown, and his hand a sharp sickle. And another messenger, that's right, I said messenger, came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, Thrust in your sickle and reap, for the time is come to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust his sickle upon the earth, and the earth was reaped. And then another messenger. This is the gathering of Israel and those who are of the grafted ones. And another messenger came out of the temple which is in heaven, and he also had a sharp sickle. And another messenger came out from the altar which had power over fire, and cried with a loud voice to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in your sharp sickle and gather the clusters of the vines of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the messenger thrust his sickle into the earth and to the arets, and they gathered the vine of the earth and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of Jehovah. And the winepress was trodden outside the city of Jerusalem, and blood came out of the winepress even to the horses' bridles by a space of 1,600 furlongs. Now, this is Yoel 3. Put you in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Get you down, for the press is full, and the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great, multitudes and multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of Jehovah, that's right, not the Lord, the day of Jehovah is karob, near, very close, at hand in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining, and Jehovah shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake, but Jehovah shall be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. Now, so what's Egypt doing in all of this? Is Egypt mentioned in Yoel 3? We are talking, well, it says all the nations round about, doesn't it? Isn't it? Egypt is mentioned. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness because of the violence against the children of Yehudah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. But Yehudah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. So what's the deal about Egypt? Unfortunately, I have to go to the website of my enemy. And before I do, I want to say something to those of you who are watching. If you succumb to men like this and their lies, now, he does post news, but he then gives his own lie and twist to what is going on, and his followers, avid, devout Christians, do the same. If you're going to follow after his lies, then get off of my channel. You're not welcome here. Now, I want to mention something else about this guy as well. He is, or was, an asset for a 3-letter agency, and these 3-letter agencies have been pushing eugenics for years and years and years. Looky here, Israel warned by Egypt, Jordan, and Saudis against Rafah invasion. Egypt moving tanks to their border. Now, why am I going to this particular article that he wrote? Because, unfortunately, the mainstream news media is not going to tell you what's going on. And he has some, because he used to be a 3-letter agency asset, he has inside information. And every now and then he leaks it out. And I do not pay him any dues or anything that he likes to collect money from people. I don't pay him any money. But sometimes he lets it out in his website so that everybody could see it. As reported earlier on this website, the country of Egypt began moving anti-aircraft missiles and artillery in its border at Rafah, Gaza, over Israeli intent to invade. So we know from the scripture that Jehovah has given the go-ahead for the Jews in the Holy Land to invade Pelesheth, and also to invade Tyre and Zidon, aka northern Lebanon. So no matter how many Israelis, the Egyptians and the Jordanians and anybody else kill in this war, the Jews are going to win this war. But unfortunately for those who kill these Jews in the process, their lands are going to be a desolation forever. On Friday, a phone call between Israel and Egypt went straight off the rails over Israel's announced intention to invade Rafah. During that call, Israel told Egypt that they would be taking both sides of the Rafah border crossing from Gaza to Egypt. The Egyptians reminded Israel that the southern side of that crossing is Egyptian territory and they cannot send troops to take it. The call went back and forth and finally degenerated when Israel told Egypt, "We took Gaza from you in 1967, we'll take Rafah from you now." After that call, elements from the Egyptian army began arriving with anti-aircraft missiles and anti-aircraft artillery. Questions to Egypt about what it was doing were intentionally unanswered. No remarks or explanation to anyone. Yesterday, Saturday the 10th February, Egypt reminded Israel of the Camp David Accords negotiated by then Egyptian President Anwar Sadat and then the Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin at the invitation of then President Jimmy Carter. According to that treaty, the Rafah area is Zone D of the geography covered by the treaty, and that zone cannot be occupied by Israeli troops as a condition for terminating the war between Egypt and Israel. So you can see Zone A, Zone B, Zone C, and Zone D, which right here is the international boundary right here. All right. Zone D is bounded by Line D, the blue line on the east, and the international boundary on the west, as shown on map 1 above. In this zone, there will be an Israeli limited force for 4 infantry battalions, their military installations and field fortifications, and United Nations observers. Now, I want to remind you, before you start lashing out at the Jews in Israel, let me remind you that the UN was sponsoring terrorism. What was it? The UNRA has been discovered to be actively participating in the act of terrorism that Hamas did back in October. So the whole UN committed an act of war against Israel. They were all a part of it. That includes Egypt. I hope I don't have to go to that. Might have to. Right here. An Israeli document obtained Monday spelled out allegations against a dozen UN employees the country says took part in Hamas's October attack, claiming several stormed into Israeli territory, including one who participated in the kidnapping and another who helped steal a soldier's body. This is on AP News, right here. Staffers with the UN agency, what was the UN agency? I can't remember. The UNRWA. The whole UN is partly responsible for this attack. So this is an attack by the whole world against the Jews in Israel. So, to get context here, Israel knows this, and they are acting accordingly. Following the deployments of troops, tanks, armored vehicles, and air defenses by the Egyptian military towards their border with the Gaza Strip, senior Egyptian officials made clear that if Israel Defense Forces launches its planned ground invasion of the southern Gaza Strip and the city of Rafah, likely causing a massive surge of Palestinian refugees toward Egypt in the Sinai Peninsula, then Egypt will be forced to withdraw from the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty of 1979. You see? And you can go and read the rest of this if you want to. But as I pointed out, the whole world is responsible for what happened. Back in October. So you have the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia warned Israel that a planned invasion of the city of Rafah may cause imminent humanitarian disaster, but they're not threatening war. Yet the Jordan entered into the Camp David treaty. The peace with Jordan will be at risk of being overturned also. Alright, and this is his warning, and translated into English. Amman, February, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and expatriates warned of the danger of the Israeli army carrying out a military operation in the city of Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip. Gaza, which is home to a large number of Pelisheth, has been displaced as a safe haven from the ongoing Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip. The official spokesman of the ministry, Ambassador D.R. Judges, rejects Saudi Arabia's absolute ban to displace Palestinians inside or outside their land, stressed the need to end the war, an immediate ceasefire, and ensures the protection of civilians of their return to their places of residence and access to assistance throughout the Strip. Apparently they didn't read the prophet Yoel. The judges also called upon the international community to observe its responsibilities and act immediately. The aim is to prevent Israel from continuing its raging war, which is causing a humanitarian catastrophe, unprecedented, stressing the need for the UN Security Council with its responsibilities to prevent serious deterioration and impose an immediate stop. So UNICEF. The situation in Gaza is catastrophic. Relentless bombing, a massive increase in the displacement of the children and families, and no safe places. It is vital to point out when UNICEF reports relentless bombing taking place in the Gaza Strip, it is the bombing of civilians. Since when did members of the UN have a problem with the bombing of civilians? Kind of like what the fat electrician on YouTube says. It is not a war crime if you're the first one to do it, or something like that. Yeah, that to the United Nations, that's exactly how they think. Let me show you something about the bombing of Dresden. The bombing of Dresden was a joint British and American aerial bombing attack on the city of Dresden. Now you might ask yourself, what does this have in common with what happened in between Gaza and Israel? Oh, a lot in common. You had a smaller country attack a bunch of larger countries. Smaller country being Nazi Germany attacking a larger group of countries and winning. What did this larger group of countries do? Let's continue. A joint British and American aerial bombing attack on the city of Dresden, the capital of the German state of Saxony, during World War II in 4 raids between 13th and 15th of February 1945. 772 heavy bombers of the Royal Air Force and 527 of the United States Army Air Forces dropped more than 3,900 tons of high explosive bombs and incendiary devices on that city. The bombing and the resulting firestorm destroyed more than 1,600 acres of the city center. Up to 25,000 people were killed. 3 more USAAF air raids followed, 2 occurring on the 2nd of March aimed at the city's railway marshalling yard. 1 smaller raid on the 17th of April aimed at the industrial areas. Post-war discussions about whether the attacks were justified with a death toll inflated to 200,000 by propaganda in Nazi Germany and repeated for decades after led to the event becoming one of the moral causa celebre of the war. Allied intelligence assessments at the time were not aware of Nazi Germany's challenges in its effort to maintain resistance in the closing months of the war. Rumors of establishment of the Nazi redoubt in southern Germany were taken seriously, and there was uncertainty among the Allies over the ability of an ongoing Russian advance from the east, which suffered heavy Red Army casualties. To maintain momentum, it would be another 3 months before Nazi Germany military units began to sign off on German instruments of surrender. Another month thereafter before the Nazi government was officially removed. The Allies saw the Dresden operation as the justified bombing of a strategic target during ongoing hostilities, which the United States Air Force reports, declassified decades later, noted that a major rail transport and communication center housing 110 factories and 50,000 workers in support of the continued Nazi war effort. Several researchers later asserted that not all communications infrastructure was targeted, and neither would on and on and on and on it goes. And Nazi propaganda exaggerated the death toll of the bombing and its status as mass murder, and many of the German far right have deferred to it as the Dresden Holocaust of bombs. Well, we're hearing the same cries from the supporters of the fake Stinians that we heard from the Nazis in Germany concerning Dresden. Once again, it's okay for the Americans and the British to do this, but it is not okay for the Israelis. A double-minded standard. And a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Google it. Now, you say, the detractors of Israel say the deportation of Gaza and southern Lebanon can never be justified. Yet, look what the nations did to Germany. Am I saying what they did to Germany was justified? Well, what I'm saying is the deportations of the Germans from lands that they stole is justified. Then the deportation of the people who stole Israelis' lands is also justified. That's what I'm saying. During the later stages of World War II and the post-war period, Germans and the Volksdeutsche fled and were expelled from various Eastern and Central European countries, including Czechoslovakia, from the former German provinces of Lower and Upper Silesia, East Prussia. Well, East Prussia, Prussia, isn't that German lands? And the eastern parts of the Brandenburg Neumark and Pomerania, which were annexed by Poland and by the Soviet Union. It was all right for you guys to deport the Germans. That was okay, right? But it's not okay for the Jews. You Christians are hypocrites. Yes, I said Christians because you're Christian nations who practice this hypocrisy. The idea to expel the Germans from the annexed territories had been proposed by Winston Churchill in conjunction with the Polish, Czechoslovak exile governments in London at least since 1942. You did it. You did it. Now, let's continue. Look at these. These people are crazy. And if you would have bothered to listen to my previous video, and you should, you will realize just how delusional these Christians are. Now, oh, what have we here? Syria. Syrian foreign minister, we are ready for war with Israel. Some of you thought I was joking over the past year, telling you you better have your suitcases packed and you'd better have your passport ready. You thought, no, you didn't think I was joking. You thought I was mad. You thought I was crazy. Syria has waged several wars against Israel and is ready for new ones. Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad warned during a press conference with his Iranian counterpart on Sunday. The Syrian diplomat said his country was ready to liberate parts of its territory illegally occupied by Israel, the Golan Heights, the United States, Conoco Fields, and Turkey, northeast Syria, Kurdistan. Iran's Foreign Minister Hossein Amir, whatever his name is, traveled to Lebanon and Syria over the weekend to discuss Israeli aggression. In particular, he was received by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who stressed that by supplying arms to Israel, the U.S. is increasing the risk of conflict spreading to other countries in the Middle East. And so this fella says, Jacob made a covenant with Syria not to pass a certain location. That is a lie. So he says this covenant was made when Jacob was fleeing Laban, his father-in-law. All right? I wonder if I can find it. Or did I lose it? Oh, it was on my other computer. Okay. Jacob pact with Laban. I'll look that up on Google. All right. Genesis 31, the separation covenant. All right. And I will show you why what he's saying is a lie. Because that covenant is no longer in effect. Any idea why? Okay, Genesis 30. Okay, I guess it's 31 then. So Jacob flees from Laban. But Jehovah told Laban this. Well, hold on. Laban pursues Jacob. And it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob was fled, and he took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and then they overtook him at Mount Gilead. And Elohim, not God, Elohim came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said unto him, Watch your mouth. That's what he said. Watch your speech. Not to Jacob, either good or bad. He told him to watch his mouth. When Laban overtook Jacob, Jacob had pitched his tent on the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched on the mount of Gilead. Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done that you have stolen away unawares and carried away my daughters as captives, taken with a sword?" That was a lie. Because Jacob told his wives, "Are you with me, or are you going to go back to your daddy?" And his daughters reminded him that daddy sold them to him like slaves. "Why did you flee away secretly and steal away from me, and did not tell me that I might send you away with gladness, with songs and with tambourines and with the harp? You have not even allowed me to kiss my grandsons and my daughters. You have been foolish in doing, and it is in the power of my hand to hurt you. But Elohim of your father spoke unto me last night, saying, Take heed that you speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now you would needs be gone too long after your father's house." So he was too long away from his father's house. "And then you stole my idols." And Jacob said to Laban, "Because I was afraid peradventure that you would take by force your daughters from me. And with whomsoever you find your idols, let them not live. Before our brethren discern what is with me and to you, for Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them." And Laban went into Jacob's tent, into Leah's tent, into the tent of his maidservant's tent, and found them not. And then he went out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images, idols, and put them into camel's furniture and sat upon them. And Laban searched the whole tent, but found them not. And she said to her father, "Let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise before you, for the custom of women is upon me." She claimed she was having a period. And he searched but found not the images. And Jacob was wroth and chided Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, "What is my trespass? What is my sin that you have so hotly pursued after me? Whereas you have searched all my things and you found nothing. Set it up here before your brethren and your brethren, that you may judge between the both of us. This 20 years have I been with you. Your ewes and your she-goats have not cast their young, and the ram of your flock I have not eaten. That which was torn of beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it, and my hand did require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night." So any of Laban's flock that was eaten by animals, Jacob replaced it. "Thus I was, and the day of drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes." He lost sleep for many years, and thus has been 20 years in your house, and I served you 14 years for your daughters, and 6 years for your cattle, and you changed my wages 10 times, except the Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham, the fear of Yitzhak had been with me, you would have sent me away empty. And Elohim has seen my affliction and the labors of my hand, and rebuked you last night. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, "These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle." And that was a lie. And that's exactly the same problem that the Syrians have today. Laban could not shut his mouth. "And all that you see is mine. What can I do this day? These are my daughters, and unto their children which they have borne. Now therefore come you, and let us make a covenant." So whose idea was it to make a covenant? Laban's or Jacob's? It was Laban the Syrian's idea. for as a witness between you and me. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, gather stones. And they took stones, and they made a heap. And they did eat there upon that heap. And Laban called it Ugar Sahadutha. Ugar Sahadutha. But Jacob called it Galeed, or witness. Laban said, this heap is a witness between me and you today. Therefore the name was called Galeed and Mizpah. And Jehovah watched between you and me to hide, conceal one from another. If you shall afflict my daughters, or if you shall take otherwise besides my daughters, man to see, Elohim is a witness between you and me. And Laban said to Jacob, behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast betwixt me and you. This heap shall be a witness, and this pillar shall be a witness, and that will alienate this heap to you, and you shall not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for harm. In other words, that is they will not cross those lines. So who crossed the line? In 1948. All right. After Israel declared its independence on May 14, 1948, the fighting intensified with other Arab forces joining the Palestinian Arabs and an attacking territory in the former Palestinian Mandate. On the eve of May 14th, the Arabs launched an air attack on Tel Aviv, which the Israelis resisted. This action was followed by the invasion of the former Palestinian Mandate by Arab armies from Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Egypt. So who crossed that line? And after that, did Syria ever have a peace treaty with Israel? No. In fact, Syria is still at a state of war with Israel. Therefore, what this fellow said here concerning Jacob making a covenant with Syria not to pass a certain location, it was Syria who crossed that line. It is Syria who broke that pact, and it is Syria that Jehovah has watched hundreds of times break that pact. And so now something is going to happen to Syria. That's right. Something is going to happen to Syria, and you can find it in Zechariah 9. Nine, not 8. The burden of the word of, not the Lord, but Jehovah. In the land of Hadrach, and several years ago I pointed out where Hadrach was. It is in the area where Turkey invaded several years ago. And also Damascus. shall be the resting place thereof. So the burden of the word of Jehovah will rest on Hadrach and Damascus. Anytime you read in the scripture, in the prophets, where it says the burden of the word of Jehovah upon so-and-so place, it is judgment. This is when the eyes of men, all the tribes of Israel, will be looking for Jehovah. Well, they're looking for him. Hama, the boundary. Tyre and Zidon, with great wisdom. And Tyre built herself a stronghold and heaped up silver like the dust and fine gold as the mire in the streets. Jehovah, or Adonai it says in this case, Adonai, will take possession. Take possession. So what we're seeing is that Tyre and Zidon and Hamath, Jehovah is going to give possession of that to Israel. And will smite her power in the sea, and she shall be devoured with fire. And I'm not saying that Israel won't use the Samson option on them. Ashkelon, Gaza shall see it and be very sorrowful. We're very sorry. You see? And what this happens when Zion's coming king comes. See? And Jehovah is going to save his people. When Jehovah blows the trumpet. This is all happening around the same time, folks. So you think. So you think that all these other narratives that your preacher told you has to happen first? I proved to you yesterday that is absolutely false. Nothing is going to stand in the way. A fourth temple does not have to be built. I showed you. I showed you rock solid proof in the last 2 videos that the third temple was already built and destroyed by Vespasian and Titus. I showed it to you. I proved it to you. And I've done it multiple times in the past. But some of you still want to throw that in front of you as a future event. And so doing, you are going to be late for the party and have the doors shut upon you. You will be the 5 foolish who have the doors slammed in your face. Why? Because you insisted that Israel go through, after a tribulation of nearly 2,000 years, you insist that Israel must go through one more. Well, shame upon you. Haven't the Jews had enough? So what I'm telling you right now, folks, is you better be prepared for what's about to happen. I was right. You better have your suitcases full of clothes and whatever, and toothpaste and toothbrushes, if you want to escape what is going to happen. And you need to have your passport. I'm not saying you have to have your passport in order to escape. What I am saying is, you better take this seriously. And part of taking this seriously is having a suitcase ready and having a passport. So, what have you got to say now? I hope I can find another news source again. Oh, I wanted to show you this. There's nothing that Joe Biden can do about this. So, Mario Nafal, he's a pro-Fakestinian. Biden to Netanyahu, you are an asshole. Biden's frustration with Netanyahu reportedly boiled over in their call about Israel attacking Rafah, in Biden telling Netanyahu's refusal to accept a ceasefire was killing him. I know that that particular statement was made, that Biden said that, or somebody in the Biden camp said that Israel's refusal for a ceasefire was killing him. But as I just pointed out to you, this mandate was given by Jehovah himself. You can read it in the scripture. I showed it to you. So there's nothing that Joe Biden can do about it. Netanyahu is seen as the main obstacle to any peace deal, which Biden believes he keeps rejecting because the war keeps him in power. It's got nothing to do with it. Despite Biden finding him impossible to work with, he still thinks unequivocally supporting Israel is the right thing to do. All right. There's nothing he can do about it. So, yes, in a call with Netanyahu, Biden expressed grave concerns about Israel attacking Rafah, and according to the White House, he reiterated for the need to plan to protect civilians before any Israeli actions. Well, where was your plan to protect the civilians of Germany before you guys invaded Germany? The Germans committed war crimes and tried to wipe out the Jews off the face of the earth. The Fakestinians committed war crimes and tried to exterminate the Israelis from the face of the earth. It was okay when you bombed Dresden, but it's not okay for Israel to do what they need to do. It was okay for the United States, Great Britain, and the Allies to mass deportation of the Germans out of the lands that they stole, but it is not okay for the Israelis to deport the haters of Israel, those who are trying to exterminate from far away from their lands? Well, my message to the leaders of the world is Jehovah is watching what you are doing, just like he was watching what was going on between Jacob and Laban. He's watching. And he has already foretold what he is going to do. I would highly suggest each and every one of you, from the least to the greatest, CIA assets, FBI assets, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States of America, to read Yoel 3 carefully. Because your life might depend upon it. Alright, I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover today. Pay attention, folks. Don't let the day of Jehovah's wrath catch you sleeping.